I see all the beautiful people in front of me that are totally aware of what we talk about here. So it almost feels like I don't need to say anything. And we can just sit together in silence for the whole time. And then we will. Whether words happen or don't, we are sitting in silence. Everything is always in silence. Or more accurately, everything is always within silence. The most irritating, frustrating, annoying noise also is within the silence. It almost just becomes a matter of where the attention goes. Does it go to the noise or does it stay in the silence? And that is what almost seems like that decides whether there's going to be suffering or whether there's going to be peace. And it's a choice that happens. There's not a chooser of the choice, but it's definitely a choice. It's like working out. First, I cannot even lift 5 kgs, and then even 50 kgs becomes effortless. What happened? It was just a matter of training and retraining and continuous training, which happened persistently. And all the surroundings and environment and the flow of life supported it. I was able to go to the gym. I had the money to give to the gym membership. I had the time to invest there. Maybe I had a good trainer. Maybe I had a friend who went with me and motivated each other. So, did I choose to become that fit, strong person? Well, it seemed like a desire arose. And then that desire morphed into action sooner or later, because many times a desire appears and nothing happens, or something happens and the motivation dies down. So I go to the gym for a week and then I don't feel like. Or something happens in life that I cannot anymore, even if I want to. So anything, any choice that happens in life through me that seems like I'm choosing to do it, or I'm motivated enough to do it, it is a collection of uncountable number of factors that come to support in it happening or not happening. And all of that mysterious dance of factors coming together and falling away for something to happen or not is all playing within the silence. The silence that you are, the silence that I am, the silence that is. And the silence is so unconditional, that includes every arising, however contradictory to silence it may be. But the silence is unconditional. Everything is allowed to arise, pleasant, unpleasant, good, evil, beautiful, ugly. The whole dual spectrum of existence, of manifestation, is unconditionally allowed to be here, play its role, die down as it does, or stays as it does. This is the unconditional love that we talk about in spirituality and in wisdom teachings. It's not that I love everything, it's that I allow everything. I and everything is not separate. And hence the allowance is natural. It's not an action or an intention that has to be set in. It's just the nature of I to be all allowing. Even allowing the not allowing. Now that's a paradox. But is it possible to allow the resistance? Is it possible to allow suffering? Is it possible to allow limiting beliefs? Is it possible to allow painful feelings, old trauma to play out within the silence that I am unconditionally? In this moment, not as a future statement, but just in this moment, can I just allow myself and all the arisings within myself to be as they exactly are, including my interference with them, including my resistance to them, including my encouragement to them? Please show up. Is it possible to be unconditionally available to everything, including the me that might be available or unavailable? Is it possible to not dictate in this moment that this shouldn't come up? Or I'm sitting in a satsang, why am I not in peace? Or why are my deep-rooted patterns not showing up? Is it possible to just be right now as it is? Arise what may, and fall away what may. Because I am the silence. What arises and what falls away arises and falls away within me, and hence is not me. And what's the point of clinging to something that's other than me? And here comes another paradox. because nothing is separate from the silence. And yet, whatever arises and falls away is not what I am. Be this silence just for this moment, whatever that means in your experience right now. Being the silence would look like the end of effort that is trying to shift or morph or understand or even allow whatever is here in the content. It's just a disengagement from that. And if that disengagement doesn't seem to be possible, then just a disengagement from that it's okay. It's okay to be as it is in this moment. And from this okayness, flowers the unconditionality that all these arisings are looking for out there, in here, in themselves. Is it possible to allow whatever emotion wants to come out right now, including the inability to feel any emotion? All the purification practices that are available in the world of spiritual practices are a beautiful tool to facilitate this disengagement. from the content of experience. And there comes a moment in one's seeking journey that disengagement is just natural. It's obvious. It's like dropping a hot potato that I had been holding all onto, thinking that I'm going to eat it. But before I eat it, it's burning my hand. And as this disengagement takes place from whatever is arising, however enlightened or immature or unenlightened it may be, when there is an unconditionality to that experience appearing, that is what we call renunciation. Renouncing a certain quality of experience. It may happen or it may not. And yet it is possible to disengage even from the inability to disengage. It is possible to be aware of my clinging and my resistance. And then it's possible to just let it flow as it does, unconditionally. And from this unconditionality, enough power or enough stability is cultivated from where one can really look at what is it that seemingly takes the attention to the content, and a forgetting of this silence, of this impersonal unconditionality of presence that I really am is taking place. It's all seeming and it's all the play. Sometimes a painful, tragic play, and sometimes a beautiful, blissful play, but still a play. And then the looking starts happening within this play. It's a power that the character gains after crossing a level, seemingly. And then it starts looking without getting sucked into the very narrative. And then one can look into the belief system or the narrative or the cluster of energy in the body, whatever it may be, with unconditionality, which can also be named as with compassion, without a need for whatever is arising to be different or to be fixed or to be released. Just as it is, with compassionate curiosity. And the arising, whether that's a belief pattern, energy blockage in the body, a habit, whatever it may be, itself opens up in its own course. There's no forcing it, there's no encouraging it, there is no trying to stop it. It itself starts to dismantle itself, to show itself of what it is, where it's coming from. And from this silence, that the curious, compassionate looking is going on, it also has the unconditional power or love to let the arising dissolve within itself. So, this is the seeming play, the two-ness of the arising and the silence, of how it may appear within one's own perception. And yet, it is all the silence playing with itself. And that is the ultimate recognition and grounding into that, however crooked the system may seem, the arising may seem, it is only silence appearing as noise. So, whatever arises, all of it is what I am. And in this way, me as this content, this person, this human body, mind, organism is really a child of this silence that is the source of this playing out and existing. My very sense of existence is stemming from that silence. That silence that I really am. We can call it parent child. We can call it a teacher disciple. We can call it a friendship. We can call it a boss and a servant. We can name it any relationship in the seeming play, in the two-ness of the play that it seems to be. Me as this person, as this psychological system and a physical system is a disciple to the silence, to the Satguru that is within already, which is all there is. And grounding within the silence, the true nature of myself can then take over as the GPS of this physical manifestation. And the very point or the very root from where this human then starts to function shifts from self-fulfillment to self-fulfilled. The seeming actions that take place during the day, the way of talking, the personality traits may all remain the same. And even out there, nothing may seem to have changed. But what seems to shift is the very motivation, the very place from where the person starts to function. It's not seeking anymore. It's not looking to be fulfilled within or from the actions or the talks or the listening, everything that it does. It's not because it wants something anymore. It starts to happen from a place that already is ever fulfilled. So then, in a way, whatever it does has no point. For itself. And yet, the action coming from there, from the self-fulfillment, from the self-unconditionality, is the very service that the world needs. And that is where the path of service points to. So it's the way of starting outside in. You start by serving the other without any sense of selfishness or a selfish motive. And then that slowly and steadily washes away our meanness and then creates a platform or creates enough space for the silence to be revealed through service. So whether the path happens outside in or inside out, it's the same path. And there are yet uniquely designed, probably billions of paths. Every mechanism has its own unique path for this silence, this true nature of oneself to be revealed. Satsang is a place to remember and to remember that you are already what you're seeking for. The seeking and the you that is seeking is simply playing out within what you really are. And what you really are is so unconditional is the word for today, I think. It's so unconditional that even the most painful seeking is allowed to play out as it is. Even in the form of stuckness. Even in the form of becoming a spiritual ego, becoming more egoistic than before the seeking started. Everything is allowed. And as this silence, it is obvious. It doesn't even need to be stated. And yet, as a person, it can be a beautiful inquiry. What is it that I'm not allowing in my experience? And not allowing doesn't mean that that if I need to allow this, that I need to stop to try and change it practically. So if I'm without a job right now and I need to pay my bills and my savings have run out, so allowing it doesn't mean that I don't look for a job. I just allow myself to be jobless. This sense of unconditional allowing has nothing to do with the action that physically and practically take place. This is an attitude. This is an inherent sense of acceptance that whatever is in this moment is valid. And from that validity, the effort or the action to change it or to make it better, whatever that means, can happen. And there is no inherent fight going on with the situation then. So my efforts are ever more fruitful, more productive, because I'm not wasting my energy into fighting that, why is this happening to me? Will I get that job or not? What if I don't have enough money? So all that thinking, all that inherent fighting and resistance with the situation, when falls away, all that energy frees up for me to really take action that is going to do some good to the situation. When this not allowing matures enough, or let me use a different word because maturity is connected with weakening of the resistance. But when this not allowing is strong enough by reinforcement, by it being the very way of living for so long, that this not allowing can now show up as fear or as anxiety. So then the inquiry can really be, what am I afraid of? It's the same thing that we are asking, that what am I not allowing in my experience? What am I afraid of? Really? Just popping that question within and not looking for an answer, just sitting with the question, going about our day with that question, driving with that question, chopping vegetables with that question, maybe even having a conversation with that question within. And the answer may pop up to the surface. And what good is that answer? Like, now I have that answer. Now what? What do I do with it? Nothing. Just sit with the answer. That is the unconditionality of silence. When the question is asked within the system, it's not asked with the intention of looking for an answer, because then that's conditional. I'm asking this question with a condition of wanting an answer from it. No, it's an unconditional question, just out of curiosity, compassionate curiosity. And it seems counterintuitive. Like, why would I ask a question when I'm not looking for an answer? Yes, that's very valid to ask. The you who think needs to ask the question is not the one from where the asking of the question happens. Because that one cannot be unconditional. That one is looking to get something out of everything it thinks, it feels, it does, or doesn't feel, doesn't do, doesn't say. All of everything that it seems to do or not do is because it needs something from that. So it is incapable of being compassionate, being unconditional, being silent. And that one is what needs to be held in silence. The silence that you really are, within which this needy little one that I think I am is appearing and playing out. Unconditionally. There is no effort to change this little one also. It is allowed to be as it is. And when this limited version of this one is really left alone to play as it does, that is true compassion. That is surrender happening in experience. And if we really look into this one, all this person is looking for, is needing, is seeking, is freedom, free to be as I want to be. Don't stop me. Whatever that may look like for that story. And when that silence, that ever allowing silence becomes available to it and lets it be, it's a sigh of freedom for this little one. It's like, ah, finally, I can just be. And as that becomes available to me, the person, from within and behind my self as this person, when I find that freedom right here, beyond and not dependent on anything that I thought I had to look for or look from, the disengagement becomes possible. And this disengagement is not indifferent to what is happening in the play. It's like a parent taking a child to the park. They're not interfering with the rides that the child is taking or the football that the child is playing with, but yet they're ever aware. The parent always knows where the child is. What are they safe? Are they doing well? Still reading their book. So that is the kind of disengagement, the loving awareness that it doesn't need to interfere, and yet it is ever aware of what's happening. So, really, is there a need to say anything or to ask anything or to look for an answer? Because silence does it all without doing anything. And yet, the saying, the asking, the looking for answers is also unconditionally allowed within the silence. So why not? Ask away, answer away, seek away. That's the freedom. Unconditional freedom. Because it's free to be bound also. Why not? We have a question from Rabia. Is life essentially meant to teach us to be okay with anything and everything and to reach a point where we don't mind what happens? When I read this question, I feel to say that life and me that seems to be living the life, or that seems to be the subject to whom life is going on for, are not separate. So life is not meant to deliver anything to this me that seems to be the liver of life. Life just is. It's just flowing as it's flowing with whatever meaning that is given to it through this me, which is within the flow of life and not outside of it, looking at life and interpreting it. That interpretation and looking is within the flow of life. So life dictates the very perception of life. And the flow of life and the perception of life is the one same movement in a way. So, yes, I can say that for the me, when life brings the interpretation that is this me to a point where I don't mind what happens, and there's a sense of equanimity to whatever comes or doesn't come in life. It's a very peaceful way of interpreting the life, the flow of life. But what life is meant to do or meant to teach us or not teach us is not for this me to know, to understand, or to decide also, because it is outside of the scope of the human mind to understand what life is and what it is doing, essentially. But the sense of equanimity would really be nice to have. That's for sure. Pleasure, Rabia. And yes, now that Rabia asked this question, and sense of equanimity was used as a label to this all allowing nature of the very silence that I am. So this unconditional compassion that the silence provides to the very content that I, as this person, is, when the sense of person is fully marinated in its source, then this person, when acting from that place unconditionally, not to get anything from out there, those same actions or those same movements of the person may look like equanimous, may feel equanimous. As Rabia very beautifully wrote, that I don't mind what happens. So it may look like that this sense of person is not off center, whatever may happen in life. And even being off center does not move the center. And that is what can also be called equanimity. So in a way, yes, this person is looking for equanimity, to be equanimous, to be grounded in itself without having to ask for anything anymore. And the good news is that it is possible, it is available, and it is ever present. The very core of existence from which I, as this person, is stemming out is the very answer that the seeker is seeking. As this gathering also is commencing to its time, I would remind again that as we step out of this meeting, this online space, just moving within the silence, speaking within the silence, thinking within the silence, noticing that there is no mover, no speaker, and no listener, no thinker. Really, all of the faculties of this perceiving, this perception, and this movement are somehow stemming from the very silence the moving is happening within. And if it's nighttime, just getting up from front of the screen, walking to the bed, lying down on the bed, and somehow watching it all happen within silence. And within silence, it can also be perceived as the sleep comes. Thinking happens, thinking drops, and sleep arises. It's all within silence. Honor yourself honor the silence that you are. And it may not mean honoring in a way of worshiping it. Honoring just means to let it be the center stage of experience and not the background anymore. Even if it happens for a certain amount of time, as this is timeless, so the concept of time also falls short. However, I get up and I have a call. The moment the call starts, it's in the background again or it's forgotten again. But just that willingness to let it take the center stage is already the beginning of fearlessness. That is the disengagement, the unconditional inquiry, and the unconditional compassion. Invite yourself on the throne of your experience. Let it rule the content. Not because it needs to be the ruler, but because I, as this person, needs a fulfilled ruler of this experience and not a needy beggar to be ruling this experience anymore. Be what you're seeking for because you are that already. In this moment, in each moment, moment after moment, without any conditions, without anything being a certain way for it to be the case. Whatever your reality is, whatever the color of your reality is, you are already that. Beyond, within, and behind the quality, the color, and the reality that you're experiencing.